ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नमं चैवं नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदिरे नमस्कृत्य नित्यभागवतसेवया भगवते श्लोके भक्ति नैष्ठिकी। Hare Krishna, welcome to the discussion of Srimad Bhagavatam. Today we are entering the chapter 1, chapter 4. So we will be reading maybe there are 40 shlokas. Let us go to the shloka content. And there are totally 33 shlokas in this chapter. The chapter title is Appearance of Nara. Now let us have a recap of what we did in last three chapters or what we learned in last three chapters. So the three chapters that we saw was first chapter was Christian messages, second chapter was divinity and divine service, third chapter is Krishna is the source of all incarnations. So in chapter 1 there were 6 questions asked, and these questions were answered in first and second and third chapters. But Srila Goswami is answering to this questions by stages of 97 stages written by Somakarji. Now, important thing that we learned was that Krishna is coming down to earth. So, what is the ultimate good for people in the world? It is bhakti, uninterrupted devotional service. What is the essence of all scriptures? Practice of bhakti, which causes knowledge and detachment, is the essence of all scriptures. Why did God appear? God appeared to attract people through his pastimes and hence enrich the bhakti process. Then we saw Lord's Purushartharas, then we saw Lord's Leelataras. Then question 6 resulted in explaining about Srimad Bhagavatam. And in the third chapter, while explaining Srimad Bhagavatam, Suta Goswami is explaining the Parampara of Srimad Bhagavatam. He is telling that Vedavyasa compiled it and he explained to Sukadev Goswami. Sukadev Goswami then explained to Parikshit Maharaj. And then in the same assembly in which Parikshit Maharaj was listening, Suta Goswami was there and he listened to Srimad Bhagavatam recitation of Sukadev Goswami. So he was explaining about this. So then, now we have a chapter which tells about Narada, appearance of Narada, which is here. And here there are 3 questions which are asked by Parikshit, asked by the sages of 97. The first question is when and where and how and on whose inspiration did Vyasadeva compile the Srimad Bhagavatam? Then the second question they ask is about Parikshit Maharaj, his birth, his activities, and renunciation. That is what they ask. The third question they ask is that how was he perceived at Hastinapur and how did this meeting with Parikshit take place? This is a question about Sukadev Goswami. The sequence is a little bit different, but first the subject is Parikshit Maharaj, and only after understanding Parikshit Maharaj, Sukadev Goswami comes. Hence, the order is Q1, Q2, Q3. The important thing that we need to understand is qualities of Sukadev Goswami. So we see that the entire of Srimad Bhagavatam first canto focuses only on these 3 questions. Of course, there are many other questions which are answered, but they add to these 3 points only. Okay, so let us now go to the chapter 4. First part. So there are four parts here. First part is Saunaka Rishi's further questions. They are asking some questions. Then shloka number 14 to 25. It is about Vyasadeva dividing the Vedas into multiple parts and assigning purposes to that. And shloka number 26 to 31 focuses on Vyasadeva's dissatisfaction and contemplation. And then, whenever there is a doubt, question, like Arjuna got bewildered, and then he surrenders to Krishna, Bhagavad Gita comes. Same way, Vyasadeva was confused, and he is now surrendering to his spiritual master, Narada. And as a result of this, Srimad Bhagavatam is going to come. That is also a great Acharya as a spiritual concept. Instead of Acharya, we should say great devotee. Okay, so now let us get into each one of these parts. Let us go to shloka number 1. 1.4.1 व्यासोवाच इति ब्रुवाणं संस्तुया मुनीनां दीर्घसत्रिणां वरदकुलपतिसूतां भगवच्छानकौ ब्रवीमि. Yasadeva said, on hearing Suta Goswami speak thus, Saunaka Muni, who was elderly, learned leader of all the rishis, engaged in a prolonged sacrificial ceremony. The rishis engaged in prolonged sacrificial ceremony, congratulated Suta Goswami by addressing him as follows. So here we understand following words, namely, Vriddha. Vriddha means elderly. Then Kulapati. Kulapati means head of the assembly. Then Bahuricha, learned. So Sutta Goswami is congratulated by Saunaka Rishi. So Srila Prabhupada gives an interesting note in the purport, which is definition of self-realization. So let us see that. So personal realization does not mean that one should, out of vanity, attempt to show one's own learning by trying to surpass the previous Acharya. He must have full confidence in previous Acharya, and at the same time, he must realize the subject matter so nicely that he can present the matter for a particular circumstance in a suitable manner. The original purpose of the text must be maintained. No obscure meaning should be screwed out of it. It should be presented in an interesting manner for the understanding of the audience. This is called realization. So this is an interesting definition of realization. So here, why Prabhupada is addressing this? This is because Sutta Goswami is telling that he was in the assembly where Sukadeva Goswami explains Srimad Bhagavata Parishit Maharaj, whatever he has realized, he is explaining to the stages of Naina's mind. That is what is stated in the last shloka of chapter 3 of Canto. Okay, with this note, let us go to shloka number 2. Shaunaka Vacha Suta Suta Mahabhaga Vadanam Vadatam Vada Katam Bhagavatim Punyam Yad Aha Bhagavan Shuka. Shaunaka said, O Suta Goswami, you are most fortunate and respected of all those who speak and recite. Please relay the pious message of Srimad Bhagavata, which was spoken by the great and powerful sage Sukadeva Goswami. So, Srila Prabhupada in the purport, he is explaining about two reciters to whom we should never listen. One is learned personalities who cannot enter into transcendental personal activities of Supreme Person. Other one is professional readers. We should never listen to them who misexplain the most confidential part of the Supreme Person. So we should always listen to bona fide descriptions of the devotee. Okay, let's go to this. One who is prepared to present Bhagavatam in light of Sukadeva Goswami, or here's Sukadeva Goswami and his representative of bona fide participant in the transcendental discussion of Srimad Bhagavatam. So it is nice thing. Okay. Shloka number 3. कस्मिन् युगे प्रवृत्तेयां स्थाने वा केन हेतुना उत संचोदितः कृष्णा कृतवान् संहितामि. So this shloka is about the history of Srimad Bhagavatam. The question is about yuga, place, reason, and by whose inspiration did Vyasadeva compile this, and what place was it taken? Why was this taken up? From where did Krishna by Payana Vyasa get inspiration to compile this literature? Now, in the next shloka onwards, 4 to 8, these are the questions of Sukadeva Goswami. तस्य पुत्रो महायोगी समत्र निर्विकल्पकः एकांतपतिर्निद्रो गूढ़ो मूढ़ो इवेयते. If Vyasadeva's son was a great devotee and equally balanced monist whose mind was always concentrated in monism, nirvikalpa, he was transcendental to meditation. But being unexposed, he appeared like an ignorant person. So these are qualities of Sukadeva Goswami. How was he? He was Mahayogi. He was a great devotee. Samadrik, equibalanced. Nirvikalpa, absolute monist. Then Ekantam, fixed his mind in monism or oneness. Unnit, surpassed insights, all is transcendental to mundane activities. Guru Muro evaded. That means not exposed, stunted like it appears. So he was appearing like a very dull person, Muro evaded. Being unexposed, he appeared ignorant. That is what it means. Being unexposed, he appeared like an ignorant person. So that is what the stages are taking on. The conditioned soul and the liberated soul may apparently be same platform, but factually they are differently engaged, and their attention is always alert, either in sense enjoyment or in self-realization. The conditioned soul is absorbed in metta, whereas liberated soul is completely indifferent to the metta. This indifference is explained as follows. Let's go to the next shloka. दृष्ट्वा आनयत्तां ऋषिमात्मजामपि अनाग्नं वेद्यो विरय परिददु न सुतस्य चित्रम् तद्विच्य पृच्छति मुनो जगदुस्तवास्ति स्त्रीपुंवीरा न तु श्रुतस्य विविक्तदृष्टे. While Sri Vyasadeva was following his son, beautiful young damsels were bathing naked, covered their bodies with clothes, although Srila Vyasadeva himself was not naked. But they had not done so when his son had passed. The sage inquired about this, and the young ladies replied that the son was purified, and when looking at them made no distinction between male and female. But the sage made such distinction. So this shloka is talking about glory of Sukadeva. If you look previous chapter, there was introduction about Sukadeva Goswami, who was told from the Gita of Srila something happened. That is or we discuss this point very briefly. So now this shloka is talking about the position. So it is continuation of the similar one. So he left, and when he left, Vyasadeva is also following Sukadeva Goswami. On the way, they passed through a place where some of the women were taking bath. And Sukadeva Goswami looked at them, they did not bother much. But when Vyasadeva went to that, they closed their bodily parts. So glory of Sukadeva Goswami is that he was thorough in understanding of soul and body, and hence he did not make any difference between male and female. The Matajis were not wearing any dress. Sukadeva Goswami also is not wearing any dress. The Matajis did not cover when Sukadeva Goswami passed, whereas they covered when Vyasadeva passed. So this difference in realization between Vyasadeva and Sukadeva Goswami is made by women. In Shloka 1 of Letter of Instruction, it is said that Vacho Vegam, Manasa Krodha Vegam, Jiva Vegam, Udara Upastha Vegam, Etam Vegam, Visheta Dhiraha, Sarvam Apima Prithvincha Tisha. A sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, mind's demand, actions of anger, adjust of tongue, belly, and genitals, is qualified to make disciples all over the world. This is the translation of that sloka. From this, we can understand that Sukadeva Goswami was the right person to make disciples all over the world. So Prabhupada, the purport explains that this women can understand the mind of a person simply by studying the demeanor. This sense was absent in Vyasadeva. He could understand the exalted position of his son. So this is interesting about the Mahabhagavata. Soul is the liberated soul is above perverted distinction. He does not distinguish between one living being and another. For him, they are all one and the same. The perfection of spiritual vision is the liberated stage, and Srila Sukadeva Goswami attained that stage. Srila Vyasadeva was also in the transcendental stage, but because he was in the householder life, he did not pretend to be a liberated soul as a matter of custom. This is right because Vyasadeva is spiritual master of Sukadeva Goswami. So Guru is always elevated than his disciple. Okay, one point. And the glory of disciple adds to the glory of the spiritual master. Going to sloka number 6. Katham alakshita kaure samprapta kurujambala kunmata mukha jagavad vicharan gaja shahave gaja shahave. So, how was Srila Sukadeva Goswami, the son of Vyasadeva, recognized the citizens when he entered the city of Hastinapur, now Delhi? Gaja Shah Bhaye, after wandering in the provinces of Kuru and Jangala, appearing like a madman, dumb and retarded. It was very difficult to recognize the exalted position of Sukadeva Goswami from his external appearance because he looked like a dumb person. So Suta Goswami is asking how the assembly of sages and Parikshit Maharaj could recognize Sukadev Goswami. That is the question. And go to the next shloka, shloka number 7. Katam va pandave yasya raja rishe muninastaha samvada sambhuta tata etraita satvati shruti. How did the meeting take place between Sukadev Goswami and Parikshit? How did it so happen that Parikshit met this great sage, making it possible for this great transcendental essence of Vedas, Bhagavatam, to be sung to him? So but just when he was listening to the Parampara system, which Suta Goswami explained in chapter 3, the Saunakadi Rishis are asked and asking this question. So it is an interesting thing. So Sukha Samhita, Prabhupada is explaining the Srimad Bhagavatam is stated here as the essence of Vedas, essence of Samvada, Sambhuta, Tata, Yatra, Esha, Satvati, Shruti, essence of Vedas, transcendental Shruti. Srimad Bhagavatam is stated here as essence of Vedas. It is not an imaginary story as it's sometimes considered an unauthorized fact. It is also called as Sukha Samhita or Vedic hymn spoken by Sri Sukadev Goswami, the great liberated sage. Now, text 8. सकोदोहनमात्रं हि गृहेषु ग्रहमेधिना अवेक्षते महापाकस्तीति पूर्वं सदाश्रमम्. Now, sannyasis should stay in householder's home only for a purpose of enlightening the family with transcendental knowledge. So, Sukadev Goswami was accustomed to stay at the door of householders only long enough for a cow to be milked, and he did this just to sanctify the residence. So sannyasi is come to householder's place just for purpose of purifying the place. How did they purify? They purify uh, by enlightening the family with transcendental knowledge. So that is the duty of renounced order. For one who is in the renounced order of fire, this is much more dangerous than being poison and committing suicide. What is that? One who is in the renounced order of life should not be handled by the number of householders only for suicide, and thus becomes subservient to worldly. That is why sannyasis should stay very short at a time of milking a cow. That much only he will stay. Explain. Then Abhimanyu Sutam Suta Prahur Bhagavatotamam Tasya Dharmam Ascharyan Karmani Cha Gridini Cha Gridini Cha. This said that Maharaj Parishit is great first class devotee of the Lord, and that is because the activities are all wonderful. Please tell us about him. Rahul Bhagavata Uttama, first class devotee of the Lord. Satya. Prabhupada actually says great first class devotee. Mahachari, very wonderful. Karmani activities. Grini, please speak to us. During all the days we heard Bhagavad, this is about Parikshit Maharaj. He did not take food or drink. Now he is in coma. So everything about him is wonderful. And his activities are worth hearing attentively. The desire is expressed here to hear about him in detail. So the first canto, as told earlier, majorly focuses on Srimad Bhagavatam. Is coming, then Parikshit Maharaj and Sukadeva Goswami. Text 10. Sa Samrata Kasya Vaheto Panduna Mana Vardhanaha Prayopanishta Gangayam Anandatyadirastriyam. He was a great emperor and possessed all opulences of this acquired kingdom. He was so exalted that he was increasing the prestige of Pandu dynasty. Why did he give up everything to sit down on the bank of Ganges and fast until death? Besides that, he was doing well in administration and was worthy of good names of his forefathers. Consequently, there was nothing undesirable in his opulence and administration. Then why should he give up all favorable circumstances and sit down on the bank of Ganges, fasting until death? So this was astonishing. नमन्ति यत्पादनिकेतमात्मनः शिवाय हानियतनान् शास्त्रवदा कथं शरीरश्रियम् अङ्गदृष्ट्यजाम् युवैर्निशातो Trishtum Maho Saha Surviti. He was such a great emperor. All his enemies would come and bow down at his feet and surrender all their wealth for their own benefit. He was full of youth and strength, and he possessed kingly opulences that were difficult to give up. Why did he want to give up everything, including his life? So, Vaishnava was a great emperor. All enemies bow down in front of him. He increased the prestige of Pandavas. He was very young and powerful. Then the sages were surprised why he gave up all this kingdom. Sages were eager to hear about शिवाय लोकस्य भवाय भूतये य उत्तमश्लोकपरायणजना जीवन्तिनात्मार्थम् असौ पराश्रयम् मुमोच निर्विद्यकुतो कलेवरम्. Those who are devoted to the cause of personality of God live only for welfare, development, and happiness of others. They do not live for any selfish interest. So even though Emperor Parishit was free from all attachment to the worldly possession, how could he give up his mortal body, which was shelter for others? So sages headed by Saumya expresses they are expressing their desire from Krishna Parishit Maharaj. Parishit Maharaj, as they see, is a shelter for all. So how he could give up everything, all his dependence, and go to the Ganges. So they were a little bit not able to understand why he's given a okay, he has given up the worldly opulences, but he also gave up all his dependence. How is this possible? Why is this happening? That is what we are asking. सर्वना समाचक्ष्वा पृष्टो यत्किञ्चन मन्येतं वाचां स्नातम् अन्यत्र छन्दसा. We know that you are expert in the meaning of all subjects except some portions of Vedanta. Thus, you can clearly explain answers to all the questions we have just put. So here we can see that the confidence which Saunakadi Rishi is expressing on Sutta Goswami. So they have asked answers for three questions, which forms the rest of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. When, where, and how, and on whose inspiration Vedavyas compiled Srimad Bhagavatam. So the three questions that they have asked. So just before going there, he explained the question, yet here kinchana, all that one we think, we say in all subjects, meanings of snata, fully acquainted, except Chandasa, portions of Vedas. Some portions of Vedas he was not able to understand or not expert in that. So Prabhupada is giving, there is no difference also between Vedic mantras and what explained in Puranas and Ityasas. According to Sri Jiva Goswami, it is mentioned in Mandyani Shruti that all the Vedas, namely Sama, Atharva, Rig, Yajur, Puranas, Ityasas, Upanishads, etc., are emanations from breathing of Supreme Being. The only difference is that Vedic mantras are mostly begun with Pranava, Omkara, and it requires some training to practice the metric pronunciation of Vedic mantra. But that does not mean that Srimad Bhagavatam is of less importance than Vedic mantras. On the contrary, it is the ripened fruit of all Vedas, as stated before. Besides that, the most perfectly regulated Sukadeva Goswami is absorbed in the studies of Bhagavatam. Although he was already realized, Srila Sutta Goswami is following in the footsteps, and therefore his position is not the least less important because he was not an expert in chanting Vedic mantras with metric pronunciation, which depends more on practice than actual realization. Realization is more important than parrot like chanting. So realized, he has heard it from his guru is Sukadeva Goswami, and he has heard it very attentively. That is what we hear from the descriptions of Sutta Goswami from stages of 97. So it is very important. Now going back to the questions, what were the questions asked? So there were three questions asked. One question was question about history of Srimad Bhagavatam. Second was qualities and questions about Sukadeva Goswami. That is the third question. Third question second question is questions about Parikshit Maharaj, his birth, activities, and renunciation. How did he meet Sukadeva Goswami? And then we come to understand qualities and questions of Sukadeva. So chronologically, question 1, question 2, and question 3. So that is how it follows. And the sages express their confidence on Sukadeva Goswami. So that is what is the main subject of the whatever we discussed now. Now, in the next section, we will be looking at slokas number 14 to 20. We'll try to complete as much as possible today. So, sloka number 14 is Bharta Vyasa. Then sloka number 15 and 16 is vision of anomalies in Kali Yuga. Then 17 and 18 is qualities of Kali Yuga. Sloka number 21 to 23 is about professors and Vedas, and then Parapara. Sloka number 24 and 25 is Vyasa's compassion. So this is what we will be looking at. Let's go back to the shlokas. Shloka number 14. Sutta Vacha. So sages of Naimisaranya have asked all the questions. Now Sutta Goswami is answering that. Dvapare sama anuprapte prite yuga paryaye jatara parashara yogi vasavyam kalaya hare. Sutta Goswami, in the second millennium overlapped the third. The great sage Vyasadeva was born to Parashara in the womb of Satyavati, the daughter of Vasu. That's a chronological order of 4 millenniums, namely Satya, Dwapara, Treta, and Kali. But sometimes there is an overlap. During the regime of Vaivaspada Munu, there was an overlapping of 28 rounds of 4 millenniums, and third millennium appeared prior to the second. In that particular millennium, Lord Krishna also descends, and because of this, there was some particular alteration. The mother of great sage was Satyavati, the daughter of Vastu, fisherman, and father was great Parasharavan. That is the history of Vyasadeva. Every millennium is divided into 3 periods, and each period is called Sandhya. Vyasadeva appeared in the third Sandhya of that particular age. So Parashara and Satyavati's son is and was born in third part of Dwapara Yuga. Every Yuga has 3 parts. Sandhya, which is 10%, then Yuga, which is 80%, and Sadhyamsha, that is end of the Sandhya. So if you see Dwapara Yuga as beginning Sandhya with Treta Yuga, then the Yuga itself, and then the Yuga was ending or merging with Kali Yuga. So that is another 10%. So that is how it works. So if you see, the Dwapara Yuga is Kali Yuga is 4,32,000 years. Dwapara Yuga is 8,64,000 years. So 10% means 86,000 years. So the Sandhya Yuga, 86,000 in the front, 86,000 in the tapering center. That is the ending side. So that during that time only Mahabharata took place. And in that part only, uh, Vyasa was born. So Vyasa is now having visions of anomalies. So Kadachit Sarasvatya Upasprastya Jalam Suchi Vidikta Ekasina Udite Ravi Mandale. Once upon a time, Vyasadeva, as the sun rose, took his morning ablution in waters of Saraswati and sat alone to concentrate. So this is the beginning. So now Sutta Goswami is explaining this. The river Saraswati is flowing in Badrikashram area of Himalaya. So the place indicated here is Samya Vasha in Badrikashram, where Sri Vyasadeva is residing. परावरन्यास ऋषिः कालेन व्यक्तरंहसा युगधर्मव्यतिकरं प्राप्तं भुवि युगे युगे. The great sage Vyasadeva saw anomalies in duties of the millennium. This happens on the earth in different ages due to the unseen force of time. So he is Praptam Bhuvi Yuge Yuge. He is Vyatikaram, seeing anomalies on the earth. He is also someone, one who knows past and present. Paravara Jnana. Jnana. Paravara Jnana. So he knows past and he has seen that time. Therefore, he has seen that there is degradation. Let's go to shloka number 17 and 18. भौतिकानां च भावानां शक्तिदृशं च तत्कृतम् अश्रद्धादानं सत्त्वान् दुर्मेधन् रसित आयुषः रसितायुषः दुर्भागं स जनान् वीक्ष्य मुनिर्दिव्येन चक्षुषा सर्ववर्णाश्रमं मानां यत् तद्योगितम् अमोघदृक्. Among the great sage was fully equipped in the knowledge, could see through his transcendental vision the deterioration of everything material due to influence of age. He could also see the faithless people in general would be reduced in duration of life and would be impatient due to lack of goodness. Thus he contemplated for the welfare of men in all status and all walks of life. Durmeda Ashwadadana of faithless Nihasatvan, impatient due to Nihasatvan is one who does not have more of goodness, impatient. Durmena, done with that. Krishita Ayusha, reduced duration of life. Durbhagana, Cha, also the unlucky, Janan, people in general. Vikshya, by seeing. So, Vyasadeva was able to vision. You see that the people are Shakti Rishamcha, the deterioration of natural power of bodily strength. Shakti Risham. Shakti Risham. One, the deterioration of natural power of bodily strength. Ashraddha Dana, faithless, Niyasattva, impatient. So all these characters are being told to us to make us to relate to the characteristics of Kali Yuga. We have our natural power declining. If we go old, we get pain in our joints. We are not able to breathe properly. Ashraddha we are becoming faithless. Husband and wife do not have faith on one another. And that is true. Was there are in society, in modern society in India and abroad, all places all over the world, we see that mixing of men and women. when there is mixing of men and women who are not related by marriage tend to have relationship. And when a wife or husband sees this in his workplace, then he tend to also get Ashraddha. He probably loses faith also in his life partner, his husband or wife, in his spouse. And we see that people are very impatient. On a road, when you travel on road in any city in India, you find that people are traveling very fast. They honk. They are not able to stand in traffic signal even for a few seconds. And they are all dull-witted. They are all dull-witted because they do not engage themselves in scriptural study. And because of all this, the duration of life is very bad. And and they are also unlucky because they are not getting good balance. They are not getting good environment. That is why it is important for us, Krishna conscious devotees, to spread the message of Srimad Bhagavatam to everyone so that they get back sanity in their life, first sanity in their life, and then they will bring stability in their life. So all these characters tell us that this is the symptom of Kali Yuga. So what is told in Srimad Bhagavatam is not an imagination, but it is reality. So if we, this is reality, and what is recommended to come out of this problem is also reality. It's a fact. We need to follow this. This understanding helps us to reinforce our Shraddha. Shraddha means our faith on the topics which will be covered in the later shlokas of Srimad Bhagavatam. Let us go to sloka number 19. Chaturhotram karma shuddham prajavam vikshya vaidikam vedāhat yajnasaktai vedam ekam chaturvidam. He saw the sacrifices mentioned in the Vedas, that means by which people occupation could be purified. And to simplify the process, he divided the one Vedas into four in order to expand them among men. So now, what is Vyasa trying to do? Vyasa is now seeing the qualities of the people in Kali Yuga and what work he has done. So he's now trying to relate whether the work he has done will it be fruitful for the people of Kali Yuga, which is sacrifice mentioned in Vedas, and which will purify people's occupation. So people's occupation itself is not there. There's nothing going to be like Varna and Ashrama. Then what sacrifice will people do? In fact, there will be no pure substance available to do sacrifices. So how are they going to do sacrifice? So purification is out of questions. So that is one point. Then Rig Yajur Sama Atharva Kya Vedas Chatvara Mudrita Ityasa Purana Cha Panchamo Veda Uchyate. The sacrifices are meant for purification of Vedas and purification of people. The Vedas are principally talking about sacrifices. So Vyasadeva, to simplify and expand it for the people in Kali Yuga, he made it into four parts, into four Vedas. Then he introduced the fifth Veda, which is Ityas and Puranas. So if you see Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 12, Rig Atharva Yajusam Nam Krisha Shepudritya Vargasha Chachkara Samitas Chakre Mantre Mani Ganeva. Srila Vyasdev separated the mantras of Rig, Atharva, Yajur, and Samavedas into four units, just as one sorts of mixed collection of wells into piles. Thus, he composed four distinct Vedic literatures. When Lord Brahma first spoke the four Vedas with his four mouths, the mantras were mixed together like unsorted collection of various types of jewels. So, Srila Vyasadeva sorted the Vedic mantras into four divisions, which thus became recognizable. So, this was the activity which he did. So, this is something which we need to understand. Let us go to text number 21 and 22. Tatra तत्र ऋग्वेदधरापायिले सामानो जैमिनिकवि वैशम्पायन एवैको निष्णातो यजुसंहिता. After the Vedas were divided into four divisions, Paila Rishi became the professor of Rig Veda, Jaimini the professor of Samaveda, and Vaishampayana alone became glorified by Yajurveda. So he is now giving the professors of all the Vedas. अतर्व अंगिलिशाम् आसीत् सुमन्त्रोदालुनोऽग्नि इतिहासपुराणानां पीता मे रोमहर्षणा. Sumant Muni Angira, who was very devotedly engaged, was interested with Atharva Veda, and my father, Romaharshan, was interested with Puranas and historical records. So, Sutta Goswami is son of Romaharshan, so that is what is told here. Text 23. Tata heta rishayo vedam swam swam vyasan anekada shishaye parashishye sashishye vedaste shakino bhavan. All these learned scholars in their turn, rendered the entrusted Vedas unto their many disciples, grand disciples, great grand disciples, and thus respective branches of the followers of Vedas came into being. So then there is, so you can see that there is a parampara. The parampara system has to continue, otherwise the original source is lost. So Prabhupada is writing the original source of knowledge is Vedas. There are no branches of knowledge, either mundane or transcendental, which do not belong to the original text of Vedas. They are simply being developed into different branches. They were originally rendered by great, respectable, and learned professors. In other words, the Vedic knowledge broken into different branches by different disciplinary successions has been distributed all over the world. No one therefore can claim independent knowledge beyond Vedas. So if there is knowledge means Vedas. That is what Prabhupada is trying to emphasize, and it has come from Lord, where the Vyasa tried to make it easier for us to understand. तैव वेद दुर्मेधये धारयन्ते पुरुषैर्यथा एवं चकार भगवान व्यास कृपणवत्सला. Thus the great sage Vyasadeva, who is very kind to ignorant masses, repeated the Vedas so they might be assimilated by less intellectual men. In the present age, the mode of goodness is almost hidden, and so for general masses of people, the kind and powerful sage, like Vasudeva, divided the Vedas into various ways so that they may be practically followed by less intelligent men, but with a more of passion and ignorance. It is explained in the next shloka as follows. त्रिशूलऋजुबन्धूनां त्रयीन श्रुतिगोचरा कर्मश्रेयसि मूढानां श्रेयम् एवं भवद्भिः इति वादित्रम् आख्यानां कृपया मुनिना कृतम्. So now, where are we coming? We are now speaking about this last part. Let us go there. That's the shloka. Out of compassion, the great sage Muni thought it wise that it would be enabled men to achieve ultimate goal of life. Thus he compiled the great historic narration called Mahabharata for women laborers and friends of twice born. So the Vedanta philosophy, okay, this is a very interesting thing. The Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all Vedic knowledge. It is the first book of spiritual values, as the Upanishads are. The Vedanta philosophy is subject matter for study of spiritual graduates. Only the postgraduate can enter the spiritual or devotional service of God. It is a great science, and a great professor is the Lord Himself in the form of Lord Chaitanya. And persons who are empowered by Him can initiate others in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The Srila Prabhupada is actually talking about himself here. He is empowered by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. For them, Mahatma, yeah, less intelligent class of men, namely women, Shudras, and unqualified sense of higher caste, are devoid of necessary qualification to understand the purpose of transcendental Vedas. For them, Mahabharata was the purpose of Mahabharata is to administer the purpose of Vedas. And therefore, within the Mahabharata, the summary of the Veda, Bhagavad Gita, is placed. So less intelligent are more interested in stories than in philosophy. Therefore, the philosophy of Vedas in the form of Bhagavad Gita is spoken by Lord Shri Krishna. Vyasadeva and Lord Krishna both are transcendental beings. Therefore, they collaborated in doing good to the fallen souls of the age. So Mahabharata is composed. There is actually Bhakti Vinod Thakura is telling that there are two jewels in Mahabharata. One is Bhagavad Gita and other one is Vishnu Sasana. Both of them are very interesting, very interesting points for us to really, really come out of this difficult age of Kali. Bhagavad Gita is the preliminary study of Vedic knowledge. So now, if you see, we have completed the first portion, the first two portions of Srimad Bhagavatam, of Srimad 1, Canto 1, Chapter 4, Appearance of Narada. So we have seen Saunaka Rishi's further questions and then Vyasadeva's division of Vedas, why he divided the Vedas. Let us go to the next. So there were three important questions which were asked. Where, and how, on whose inspiration did Vyasadeva compile Srimad Bhagavatam? This is based on the shloka number from chapter 3, Krishna is the source of all incarnation. The last segment of this chapter focused on Parampara in Srimad Bhagavatam and answer to that is Srimad Bhagavatam and Suta Goswami in that Parampara. That is what is told. So, continuing on this topic, the sages are asking these questions about history of Srimad Bhagavatam, qualities about Sukadeva Goswami, question about Parishit Maharaj. So now it stops here. Now Suta Goswami is answering the question number 1. So question number 1 will be answered in subsequent shlokas. Question number 1 will be answered up to 7th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1. And Parishit Maharaj's history will be discussed in from 7th chapter till 19th chapter. 18th and 19th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam will talk about Sukadeva Goswami. Okay, we'll stop here. Thank you very much. Vanchakalpatarabhyascha kripasimudabhayavcha pitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. श्रीमद् भागवत की जय कर श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव की जय हरि बोल हरि थैंक यू वेरी मच हरे कृष्णा